He was predicted to have a great future in the NBA, but just a few months later, his name became forbidden for the entire league. How did a talented basketball player end up at the center of one of the biggest scandals in sports history? Why was it his story that permanently changed the NBA's attitude toward gambling? And what really happened in the final chapter of his life, which is still debated to this day? Watch this video to the end, because the most unexpected part of this story awaits you ahead. Imagine a player who many experts predicted had a great future, a basketball player who possessed not only great physical attributes, but also a rare basketball IQ. He saw the court several moves ahead, knew how to make unconventional decisions, and gave the impression of a man who understood basketball better than most of his opponents. His name was Jack Molinas. Today, this name is far from familiar to every NBA fan, but in the early 50s, many were certain that a new star of American basketball was emerging before them. His story differs from almost all the others. Usually, talented athletes become the heroes of resounding victories or are remembered for incredible records. But Jack Molinas' path turned out to be completely different. He entered history not only thanks to his skill, but because of events that forever changed professional sports' approach to the integrity of competition. To this day, many NBA historians call him the man after whom the league could never look at gambling as calmly as before. But in the very beginning, no one could even imagine how this story would end. Jack Molinas was born on October 31st, 1931, in New York. Even in his high school years, those around him quickly noticed that they were looking at an unusual player. He had a great feel for the rhythm of the game, played with confidence under the basket, and possessed a rare ability to both score points and create opportunities for his teammates with equal success. Coaches noted that he adapted almost instantly to any opponent, and his decisions were often unexpected, even for his own team. After high school, Molinas enrolled at Columbia University, where he very quickly became one of the leaders of the college team. It was here that his talent fully unfolded. He regularly was the top scorer in games, fought confidently for rebounds, and amazed experts with his versatility. In those years, such basketball players were rare. A tall player capable not only of dominating under the rim, but also finely sensing the flow of an attack was always considered a real find for any team. His game attracted the attention of more than just fans. Professional club scouts closely monitored every performance by Molinas. Many were sure that after graduating from university, he would secure a spot in the NBA without much trouble and go on to have a long, successful career. And that is exactly what happened. In the 1953 draft, the rights to Jack Molinas were acquired by the Fort Wayne Pistons. For the young player, this was a giant step forward. Making it into the strongest basketball league in the world was already considered a huge achievement back then. And landing on a team's roster that planned to use you from the very first games was something not every rookie managed to do. And Molinas quickly proved that he wasn't there by accident. Right in his debut season, he looked very confident. Despite his lack of extensive experience, he played as if he had long been accustomed to the NBA level. His statistics were impressive, and his composure in the most tense episodes earned respect even from seasoned veterans. He scored points with confidence, won battles under the glass, and demonstrated mature play rarely seen in rookies. Soon, people began calling him one of the most promising young players in the league. Some experts believed that with such career development, he was capable of becoming one of the best power forwards of his generation. Immense opportunities were opening up before him. Contracts, recognition, competing for top positions, all of this seemed like only a matter of time. Yet right at the moment when his career was rapidly ascending, the first alarming rumors began appearing alongside the name of Jack Molinas. While fans admired his play, off the court, something was taking place that almost no one attached any importance to at the time. Nobody could have imagined back then that his game wouldn't be the main problem at all. The first warning signs appeared long before the NBA took an interest in them. From the outside, Jack Molinas gave the impression of a confident young man who knew exactly what he wanted from life. He made acquaintances easily, quickly won people over, and almost always looked calm. But behind this image lay a character trait that over time worked against him. Even in his youth, Molinas treated money quite differently from most of his peers. While others dreamed of building a successful sports career, he was constantly searching for ways to earn more and faster. He wasn't only interested in basketball and studies. He closely observed how bookmaking operations worked, discussed sports betting, and showed a far greater interest in gambling than was considered normal for a future professional athlete. In those years, such a fascination was rarely seen as a serious threat. Gambling was a part of American culture. Many made small bets for entertainment, and few saw a problem in it. Therefore, no one paid special attention to the fact that the young talent was showing far too much interest in this area. During his time at Columbia University, his reputation on the court remained virtually flawless. He continued to demonstrate a high level of play, became the team leader, and regularly caught the eye of sports columnists. It seemed that an exclusively great future awaited him. At the same time, however, another trait of his character was showing. Molinas genuinely considered himself a person capable of outsmarting any situation. He was confident that he could always find a way out, bypass the rules, or use the system to his advantage. This confidence gradually turned into dangerous overconfidence. Later, people who knew him personally recalled that Jack loved risk. And this wasn't just about basketball. He liked feeling that he was in control of the situation, even when it seemed to those around him that everything could get out of hand. It was this sense of his own superiority that became a kind of game for him. With each passing year, this attitude only intensified. He was used to winning, used to finding unconventional solutions, and gradually began to believe that ordinary restrictions existed for anyone except him. This quality often helped him during matches when an unexpected decision was required in a split second. But off the court, such confidence was becoming increasingly dangerous. Yet outwardly, nothing portended trouble. Fans continued to see a promising player, coaches trusted him with more and more playing time, and club management counted on the young forward becoming an important figure for the team for years to come. Even the first rumors that began cautiously surfacing around his name were not taken seriously. Gossip is always born in professional sports, especially when it comes to a talented rookie. Someone spoke of his unusual interest in betting. Someone mentioned questionable acquaintances, but no convincing evidence existed back then. That is precisely why most people were sure the talk would quickly fade on its own. No one could have guessed that very soon these rumors would turn into a large-scale investigation that would threaten not only the career of Jack Molinas himself, but the reputation of the entire league. Meanwhile, he continued to take the court, unaware that attention to his game was gradually starting to shift in a completely different direction. The start of his professional career was unfolding just as the experts had predicted. Jack Molinas did not look like a rookie who needed a long adaptation period. He quickly adapted to the NBA and showed from his very first games that he was capable of bringing real value to the team. His confidence with the ball, smart positioning, and ability to make the right decisions set him apart even among more experienced players. As part of the Fort Wayne Pistons, he immediately received the opportunity to prove himself. For a young basketball player, this was a rare chance that he used almost flawlessly. On average, Molinas scored over 11 points per game and pulled down about 8 rebounds. For a debut season, these were very respectable numbers, especially considering the level of competition in the league during the early 50s. But the figures didn't reflect everything. What impressed far more was how he actually played. Molinas never played in a formulaic way. He knew how to read the game, anticipated opponents' moves in advance, and found teammates with passes that many simply didn't expect to see. At times, it seemed he was calculating the development of an attack faster than the other players on the court. Experienced coaches particularly valued his basketball IQ. They understood that such players don't come around every year. A tall forward who can not only fight under the rim, but also organize the team's offense was always considered a great rarity. Many specialists were confident that in a few seasons, Molinas would be able to contend for a spot among the best players at his position. His progress was noticed by journalists, too. Newspapers increasingly published pieces about the talented rookie who had firmly established himself in the NBA. Fans were starting to remember his surname, and opponents realized that they were playing against far more than an ordinary debutante. Everything seemed to be coming together perfectly. Young age, great stats, the coach's trust, and prospects for a long, successful career. Many players could only dream of such a start. However, it was at this very moment that strange events began taking place around Molinas. Club management started receiving information that initially seemed like ordinary rumors. Several people independently reported that the young basketball player was showing far too much interest in betting on sports events. In those years, NBA rules already strictly prohibited players from participating in gambling related to basketball. After the college basketball scandal in the early 50s, the league understood how dangerous even the shadow of such suspicions could be. At first, no one wanted to jump to conclusions. Nobody wanted to write off a successful season over unverified information. But reports kept coming in, and gradually, they formed a picture too alarming to ignore. What caused particular concern was that this wasn't about occasional bets for fun. People familiar with the situation hinted that gambling occupied a much more significant place in Molinas' life than it appeared from the outside. If this was true, the problem could turn out to be much more serious than the club assumed. Very soon, the rumors reached NBA management. For a league that was doing everything possible to strengthen fans' trust, such information looked extremely dangerous. Any doubts about the integrity of the players could deal a massive blow to the championship's reputation. Therefore, a decision was made to investigate everything as thoroughly as possible. On the surface, Jack Molinas' life continued as usual. He trained, stepped onto the court, and played just as confidently as before. But behind the scenes, an investigation was already beginning that could erase everything he had achieved in just a few months of his professional career. Very soon, league management would receive evidence after which there would be no going back. When the investigation was just starting, few believed it would end in a real historic scandal. The league had heard various rumors about athletes involved in gambling before, but things rarely reached serious penalties. However, the situation surrounding Jack Molinas quickly stopped being a routine check. NBA representatives began gathering information from various sources. They were interested not just in whether the player was making bets, but on which specific events. The difference was fundamental. If a professional basketball player bets on games in his own league, trust in the results of the competition is put at risk. That was precisely what NBA management feared most. It soon turned out that the suspicions had not arisen out of nowhere. According to the investigation, Molinas was indeed participating in bets on NBA games. What's more, these were not isolated instances. Investigators obtained sufficient information to conclude that gambling had become part of his life, despite a direct ban from the league. The most disturbing part was something else. Even if there was no proof that he was intentionally influencing game results, the mere fact of an active player participating in betting was already considered an extremely severe violation. For the NBA, this was enough to call into question the integrity of every single matchup in which such a basketball player took part. Molinas tried to explain his position. He claimed he had never bet against his own team and never tried to alter the outcome of games. In his words, the bets in no way affected his actions on the court. But league management understood that the problem was much broader. If fans start doubting the honesty of the game for even a minute, the entire championship suffers. Every successful shot, every controversial referee call, and every unexpected defeat would be perceived completely differently. The NBA was just gaining popularity and could not afford such a blow to its reputation. League Commissioner Maurice Podoloff found himself facing a difficult choice. On one hand, he had a talented young player who could have had a brilliant career. On the other hand, It was necessary to show everyone, without exception, that the rules were the same for everyone, regardless of skill level. The decision turned out to be as harsh as possible. In 1954, Jack Molinas was banned for life from the NBA for violating rules that forbade players from betting on league games. He became the first active player in NBA history to receive such a severe punishment specifically for this reason. The news instantly spread across the entire country. For many fans, it came as a real shock. Just recently, journalists were writing about a rising star, and now those same newspapers were telling the story of a man whose professional career had effectively ended almost before it had even begun. This story made an especially strong impression on other players. Everyone realized that NBA management was no longer going to turn a blind eye even to a potential threat to the integrity of the competition. The league made it clear, talent cannot protect you from consequences if fundamental rules are broken. It seemed that after such a decision, Jack Molinas' name would gradually disappear from sports news. Most players, finding themselves in such a situation, would have tried to start a new life far away from big-time basketball. But Molinas was a completely different person. He wasn't about to accept that the doors to the NBA were closed to him forever. On the contrary, it was after his exile from the world's strongest league that the most controversial and dangerous part of his story began. One that, over time, would lead him far beyond the boundaries of the basketball court. After his exile from the NBA, Jack Molinas did not give up basketball. He continued to perform in other leagues and still demonstrated a high level of play. However, his former dream was now out of reach. Instead of leaving the past behind, he sank deeper and deeper into the world of gambling and shady acquaintances. Basketball gradually turned into merely one way to maintain connections, while Molinas' true interests shifted to where big money was circulating. It was there that he met people who opened the doors for him into a much more dangerous world. Very soon, the former player found himself not just a participant in the gambling industry, but a man helping build entire schemes. He forged connections with basketball players, intermediaries, and bookmakers, understanding how sports worked from the inside. As his influence grew, federal authorities began paying attention. What had once looked like a personal passion for betting was gradually turning into an activity that raised serious interest among investigators. Soon, Molinas' name became linked to one of the largest scandals in American basketball. The investigation established the existence of a massive point-shaving scheme in college basketball. Dozens of players and several university teams were featured in the investigation, and Jack Molinas turned out to be one of the key figures in this story. The trial caused a massive public outcry. He was found guilty and received a prison sentence. For a man who was once predicted to have an NBA star career, this marked his ultimate downfall. But even after his release, his life did not become any calmer. In the following years, Molinas tried to engage in various projects, yet his past constantly reminded him of its presence. Financial difficulties, old acquaintances, and the reputation of a man connected to the underworld prevented him from starting fresh. He continued communicating with people who moved around illegal businesses, and alarming rumors swirled around his name ever more frequently. It seemed that danger accompanied him literally every step of the way. And one day, this story arrived at its darkest episode. In August 1975, Jack Molinas was shot dead at his home. The crime raised many questions. The investigation considered various motives, including financial conflicts and ties to criminal circles. The perpetrators were identified, yet many details of this story remained a subject of debate. Even decades later, researchers continue to discuss whether such an ending could have been avoided if the once talented basketball player had made a different choice. Today, the name of Jack Molinas remains one of the most controversial in NBA history. Many historians are convinced that in terms of his skill level, he could have become one of the notable stars of the 50s. But instead of athletic achievements, his surname is forever linked to the first high-profile scandal involving betting and point shaving. His story became a warning for generations of players and helped shape the NBA's tough stance against any attempts to question the integrity of the game. If you're interested in other real-life stories of legends whose fates turned out to be no less dramatic, be sure to check out the following videos on our channel. The links are already appearing on the screen.